And I brought Heather on today because this is the month of love, and over on the Power Project podcast, we're talking about all the things about what our guys feel about us. We're going to be talking about what we women feel surrounding love and marriage and relationships. And we want to just embrace all of that. And Heather has a beautiful love story that I have followed along with, as well as some of her other followers, close friends. So Heather, if you would just share your story with us today, I would be honored.
Well, this is a really neat opportunity, Brandy, and I want to thank you for that. It's so interesting to be in a space where other people are calling my life, my marriage, a love story. And a little bit of background on me and my husband, Larry. We met in high school, as some people do. And I would love to tell you that marrying him was so easy to do. But I think like all marriages, we had rough years. But I knew instantly, like the first time my husband kissed me, that I was going to marry him. And we went to college together. We got married right out of college. And I remember it being just the happiest day. My mom kept saying, like, aren't you nervous? And I'm running around the hallway holding my wedding dress up, and I'm like, what do I have to be nervous for? Like, I'm marrying my best friend. This is exciting. And we had kids early. We had 3 kids. And I think our lives and our marriage really began to change when I began to change. I found myself early 30s, really feeling the effects of depression, brokenness, lack of clarity of who I was and really who I wanted to be. And I was lucky in that I jumped into network marketing, which is the weirdest thing to kind of like be that catalyst. Like I claim that as a catalyst to really helping me find who I am. But that's really where it started for me. And I was on a mission to do 2 things. Number one, prove to my husband that I could do something substantial in this kind of business, and really not just prove to myself, but see how far I could push my own potential. And that journey, which has been almost 9 years now, has radically changed my life, our life, even my husband's life. He jumped out of his own corporate job 4 years ago to run his own business from home. And so here we've been in this home running businesses side by side and growing together and being in this home together and really finding love for one another in a totally different way, dreaming together, traveling together, being in each other's lives, not just being parents together, not just being partners together, but truly being partners in our passions, our work, and ultimately our dreams together. And we have, I've described the last 2 years of our lives together as bucket list years. We have been to amazing places. We've had the most romantic of trips, but also we've just been excellent in partnership together. And this whole experience, our marriage, our dreams together came to sort of this public space when Larry died unexpectedly. We found him October 1st this past year. So it's just been 4 months of me learning how to navigate life without him, but also being very willing and open to share both our love, my loss, and the journey from here with other people.
And thank you, because I'm amazed. I'm amazed every time that you share about it. I just have to thank you, because I've shared your story with others that have gone through the same thing recently. And you've been a resource that I've said, hey, watch this video. I don't know if it helps or not, but she's just putting it out there and letting you know what she's going through, and that you can be broken and she can be broken, and we can all, move forward in life. And you did your first live video just days after, right?
Yeah.
And it was just the most touching and raw and lovely tribute that I think you could have possibly done. And then in turn, you have started embracing this whole new realm of having a platform of grief to share with the world, right?
I mean, I guess, yeah, like this is never something you plan for. And it's never something I wanted to become or to have a platform to provide. But yet, my work, my career has been built on leading women to wholeness in a way. And in so leading the way by healing my own heart. And I have been very comfortable in live video. I have been teaching and mentoring in that space for years. And after Larry died, I just felt, I wish I had an explanation, but I just felt this desire to share this piece as well. There's so much that goes into loss, and there's so much that we don't understand. I knew nothing of grief. You hear of me, Brandy, losing a spouse. You have no clue until you're in it. And I found myself going, I was so naive. I was so disconnected from what it actually feels like to experience hurt and loss at this depth. And I just felt this desire not only to just share my husband, but to also just walk people through this, because I don't know, maybe I would have been more equipped had I known more. But the truth is, you don't key in to things until it's important and relevant in your life. And I tend to have this crazy ability to take this grief experience that I'm living and also see its connection to building business, to finding yourself, to exploring the depths of your heart. It's the most real, it's the most stripped down, authentic, vulnerable version anybody could ever experience. And I think there's so much value that I can share with other people. It's hard to not do that.
Yeah, and I think you shared the other day a post about how we're never ready. We sit back and we say, we're never really ready, like to buy a house, to have a kid, to start a business, to lose a spouse. And so the embracing the now, I think you have done a phenomenal job of sharing that. And I know Speaker Kristen Brown is a friend of mine. She's spoken at our convention, and I love her. She's delightful. She's been on the podcast, and she talks about she unexpectedly lost her husband as well at a very young age. And she says, I call it the getting off the couch. Like, you have to get up. You have to get off the couch. You have to push through. So what would you tell someone that's walking through the fire with you right now and they're not able to get off the couch? They haven't had the passion, the fire, and the ability to get up and move forward like you have. What would you say to that person at home today?
Grief hits people in so many different ways. And I saw this immediately in the way I was processing Larry's death, sitting next to his parents and how they were processing. And it's just different for everybody, and everybody's timing is very different. I think for me, I am a mindset junkie. I can't get enough of mindset coaching, reading about how to change the mind and morph your world into a world that you want to live. And here I am in grief, and I really wanted to mindset myself out of it. I really naively thought I could mindset myself out of it. And that was a really hard realization that grief is going to grip you, and it's going to do what it wants with you and that's until it's finished. I read just this morning, if you've got 78 tears to cry, you don't end at 15 just because you want to. And I think this space of grief and advice, I remember I was gifted like a small library of grief books after Larry died. And I'm a reader, I'm a high learner, and I dug into those. And I was hungry for how to get up today. Like, what does week 1 look like? And how do I navigate that most successfully? If you can success your way through grief, what does month 1 look like? And how do I do that? And these books were showing me what will be, and beauty will come again. And you have all this. And I was like, that's great. That's fine. I believe I will be healthy and whole in years to come. But what about like right now in this moment? And I just couldn't get that. But I think my current takeaway, and keep in mind, Brandy, I'm on month 4. I know nothing. But I think there has to be a willingness. And like, I'm willing to heal. I'm willing to not be gripped by grief. I actually have discovered I hate grief. I hate how it feels. I hate being in it. And I want to spend the least amount of time I can in it. And so there's this willingness. And I think it's an openness of heart. I'm willing to be okay.
Yeah.
And that might not be okay for some people who also really love him. But I'm willing to be okay. I'm willing to heal. I'm willing to start a new chapter, however and whenever that should present itself to me. But I think what I have seen, I have willingly thrust myself into being a voice for grief, which means I get conversations and people reaching out and wanting to connect and share their grief stories. And what I see is too often this lack of willingness to let go. And the letting go, even just energetically, emotionally, walking away. Like, I have talked about this a lot, Brandy, this feeling that I must walk away from my husband. That's a hard pill to swallow. But it's also like, I know I have a lot of life to live. And whatever spiritual belief you have, I've been called to walk a big chunk of my life without that love for him, without him in it. So I have to be willing to say, okay, there's more to life. There's more to my story. I'm willing to explore it. It's just that willingness.
And I think you guys lived a big life, right? I mean, you guys were just like adventurous. You did a lot of it together. And so I think that for you to continue that and be willing to say, I'm going to live that life and I'm going to walk that life, is really, I think at the core of carrying that love story forward.
It is. And it's also very unnerving. 4 or 5 months ago, I was really solid in who I was, what I was called to do on this planet, and where I was going. And I thought I was a very independent woman. But I really built that life around him and with him. And so I'm in a place now where I don't recognize this girl. This girl now owns a gun and listens to rap, like, and I am constantly saying to myself one of two things. Number one, who am I? Or number two, what just happened? Like, how did I get here? And it's brand new. This is a brand new earth for me. And it all looks the same. The people are the same, but I see very differently, and I behave very differently without this person in my life. And I've been with Larry for the last 25 years of my life, since I was 15 years old. And so the last frame of reference I have for being without Larry, I was a child. I was an adolescent child. And so I really have no frame. I don't know who I am, but I'm behaving and thinking and making choices very differently than I would have and was 5 months ago. And so it's just new. It's a new earth, and that's the best way I can describe it.
Well, I think it's so completely relevant because it is really easy, even if you're the most independent person in the world. Like, it's the whole oneness of marriage that you look up and you don't recognize yourself without the other person. So it's a whole rebirth, basically. And what does it look like? I realize you're probably taking it like 1 minute and 1 second at a time at this point, but what does, metaphorically speaking, like I watched your video where you were in the closet and you've cleaned Larry's closet out at this point, and you speak about having to free up that space so that you can receive whatever it is that you're receiving. What does it look like just stepping out of that closet at this point?
I'm a high achieving, planning woman. And grief has taught me I don't really care about your plans. You're just going to be right here until we're done with you. And so a lot of this space for me is learning to surrender and not know. A lot of it is learning to receive. For somebody who I've built my life around pouring into other people, giving love, I'm now really being called to accept it, receive it, and ask for it. I've talked about this a lot too, Brandy. Like, I can't do grief alone. It is the most physically painful thing I've ever experienced. And I mean, physically painful thing. I can't tolerate it. I literally cry out for, like, give me something, because I can't do this, which means I have to be willing to make a call, step across the street, knock on a door and say, I need you. I need help. And that's asking for help. For high achieving women, that's very hard to do. But yet, this is the space. These are the learning lessons. And it goes back to this willingness. I'm open. Okay, I can't operate life as I have. I can't just pour into other people. I have to learn how to ask. And in asking, Brandy, I'm actually giving somebody a gift, right? This is one of the greatest lessons I've learned, that me not helping is actually robbing. Me not asking for help is robbing somebody who desperately wants to feel like they've done something to help me and my kids, And so I got to humble myself and put myself in a position where actually I still get to pour into people, but it's by asking for help now. And so, stepping forward and stepping into this life, it's blind. I don't know. I don't have a clue. I don't know what next month, next year, 5 years from now will look like, but I have a hope. I hope that I will be healed. I know how I want to feel. So rather than goals being outcome oriented, they're now feeling oriented. I don't want to be in the fetal position on my bathroom. I don't even want to be there next month, let alone next year. I want to feel strong. I want to feel like I've got a pulse on my life, my kids. I want us to feel happy, find joy. And so again, I have to have an open heart. I have to be willing to not cling to the past because it's not here anymore. Larry's not here anymore. And so being open just means, God, dude, I don't know what you have for me, but I'm going to do my best to be open to what comes.
And you just celebrated a birthday. So happy birthday. And you've made it very open that, I'm going to have fun this year. This is going to be a fun year. So what is something that maybe in the past has been something that you have enjoyed, or something that you've done with Larry that you choose to continue doing, something that brings you joy that you're going to continue doing this year in your year of fun?
I don't know that looks like details to me, but again, it's a choice. Like, having fun this year is a choice, choosing to move forward from loss and find happiness, allowing myself to laugh, have fun. That's a choice. And, much of our life I have called, since been referring to Larry as, the the fun director. He was the one that took us hiking and thought of these things for us to do. And he was the laughter in the house. He was constantly seeking to make jokes, have fun, be playful. I'm a serious person because, again, like, I want to achieve, like, this is serious business. And so for me, a lot of it is taking a cue from him. And I don't want to live a serious life. I want that fun that he brought into our lives, and I want to learn how to carry that kind of legacy into my kids, into my life, into this next chapter, whatever that is. So it's more those like feelings rather than those specifics, because the specifics are, I would love to take my kids on a vacation. But I don't know if I'm brave enough at the moment. I don't know how that feels. I don't know if I'm smart enough streetwise, to take them out of the country or, up in the mountains alone. So it's just learning to, a lot of it is learning to find me in a different way, independence, strength in a new way, unattached from another human being.
What's your favorite thing that you've learned about yourself in this journey?
I don't know if it's a specific thing I've learned, but maybe solidified. When my husband died, it was a fluke. He shouldn't have died. His body just turned off. And he had been hunting in the mountains alone and just literally sat down and was done. So it took us a number of days, number one, to know that he was gone, and number two, to find him. And I remember this would have been minutes after learning that he had died. They'd found him in the mountains. A good friend of ours drove me back to get to my kids before social media, got to them at school. We were an hour and a half from town. And I had this, just plain as day conversation with myself. And it sounded a little bit like this. Well, girl, you've been teaching a lot of mindset. You've been talking a lot about overcoming and healing and moving forward. It's time for you to put your money where your mouth is. And I think that for me, I knew I was strong. I knew I was an overcomer. I'm a fighter. And I choose to live life whole. This has been a quest for me. But this is like the ultimate test. And I knew that from the beginning. And so I know I'm strong. I know I'm going to be okay. And I want to be okay. And so I think it's just a constant reminder that we get to choose. We get to choose every single thing and how we want to feel and how we want to live, no matter what that trauma, no matter what that story, no matter what that baggage is we're carrying. Everything is a choice. And I'm choosing to figure it out.
I think that's perfect. I think it's beautiful. And I think you're navigating it. I don't want to say well, because that's, I don't know.
It feels weird, like, good job, girl. Good job. Thanks. Right?
Yeah, I think you're navigating it. I think you're navigating it beautifully. And this week is a landmark week for you in this journey. Valentine's Day. It's not just Valentine's Day without Larry, but it's a couple of other things this week as well, right?
It's also his birthday.
So in closing, first, I just want to thank you for being here and for sharing a beautiful story from all of it. What was your absolute favorite thing about Larry?
Larry was somebody that I just wanted to impress, and it was hard to impress him. And to make him laugh, you had to work for it. He was happy, amazing. He was loyal and encouraging, but he never told you something that he didn't think was, he never told you something just to tell you, just to make you feel good. And I think one of the hardest things I have felt in losing him is that I'm convinced I built my business, both my businesses, to the extent that I have, just for the sheer fact of I wanted to see the look on his face when I did it. And, now that drive to succeed and go bigger, that payoff for me is gone. But I miss that about him, and I miss the friendship. This week in particular, I have really missed the friendship that we had. Places we'd go, things we'd talk about in the middle of the afternoon. Just having that one person on the planet that knows you more than anybody else and still thinks you're freaking amazing. I miss that. I miss that a lot.
Well, I have no doubt that he would be super impressed with what you're doing. And I bet he would encourage you to keep doing exactly what you're doing and keep walking and keep moving and keep pushing. And I think he'd be really, really proud right now. So I'm sending you all kinds of love, thoughts, and prayers, as are like thousands upon thousands of people all over the place. But just know that we're all here for you. And I think that you're doing a great job, and you're being obedient to share your mission and your heart with the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity to just share a little bit more about him.
You have a great day, you guys. Heather Quisel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.